Everyone's talking about metaverses, but I'm well happy to be in the OG metaverse, the game that started it all. If you played, send us a tweet to @DRSportsMedia. We had this room made specially for the DR Sports fan base. You can get custom-made clothing, items and furniture based on DR Sports colours. To open the shop, click the shopping trolley. There are all sorts of other rooms and games in Habbo. Open up the navigator window on the bottom right-hand side of your toolbar to see. I'm visiting Habbo Tuesday the 15th at 5 p.m. UK time, and I want to see you there. Make sure to follow DR Sports on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, because we're running a weekly competition for you to interview me in Habbo.
Morning, everyone. Well, it's morning at the time of recording. Welcome to DR Sports, Talking Tactics. Arsenal are top of the league. Arsenal not only top of the league this week, they're going to be for the next 6 weeks. They're going to be through the whole World Cup. Feet up, I can just watch England. I can watch all these great players. Saliba balling out for France. I can watch, who else have we got? Gabriel Martinelli, Jesus for Brazil, Tomiyasu for China. It's going to be a great time. Then we've got Christmas. I can carve that Christmas turkey, looking at the league table. We're top of it. And I can just, just enjoy a nice beverage with it. Sorry, we've got Matisse as well. Hey Matisse, how you doing?
Yes,
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm good.
I was getting carried away. I was getting lost in the moment.
What does that say on your cup?
I don't know, but I'm drinking them. Sorry.
I don't like this.
You know what?
I don't like
Once again, production have put me up to this. But you know I like you a lot, Matisse. But we'll put one there. And if I get a bit thirsty. I'm a very happy man.
I bet you are.
You're not a very happy man.
No, I'm not.
So why don't we just start with neither of our teams?
Yes, please.
But very quick, how are you, mate? Seriously,
I'm good. I'm actually better. It's over now.
Yes.
The bleeding has stopped. I've been taken into hospital. They've got me, standard on a bed, and I'm going to lie there for the next 6 weeks. I'm good.
Fair enough. You're in. I saw your reaction, and you said that this is everyone go and just look after yourself.
Yes.
Take this time to enjoy your life.
Yeah, 100%.
And I've got to say,
walk.
I've been there as an Arsenal fan. That autumn of 2020, listen, Arsenal have had bad patches, and ultimately they've kind of turned it around in some way, or it's ended with maybe an FA Cup or whatever. So, but that autumn of 2020, I was like, there are no finals till 3, 4, 5 months down the line. Where am I going to feel any better
Where
about
am I going
this
to get my
team?
joy from? My happiness. Yeah.
Exactly. So I've been there. I've got to ask you about this. Save the bridge. What do you mean save the bridge? Was the 250 million not enough in the summer? Or?
270 actually.
Oh, 270.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I was trying to do you a
It's important to get the
favour.
maths spot on with
Okay,
this.
apologies.
No, we're going to need probably another 270. So Save the Bridge is definitely up and running.
Yeah.
I'll have Expressions and Robbie outside collecting the coins as last summer.
Fair enough. Listen, let's talk a little bit about Man City and Brentford. I think it's only right we start there because this was the shock result of the weekend.
Yeah.
This was the performance, I think, of the weekend from Brentford. And this is why I love that we do these shows week to week. And I love touching on things sometimes. Even though Man City won last week, we were just alluding to, Haaland's role in this team, scoring a lot of goals. But do City look quite as good? Yeah. And only a week on, in a game that, again, they should have won. They didn't. They only just got over the line with Fulham.
Yeah.
And I think there's more evidence to what we were saying last week. But quickly, what do you make of the game?
Well, first things first, Brentford, fair play. Like, nobody predicted this because Manchester City are not top. They're chasing Arsenal, right? And they've obviously got the experience, the know-how, how to get through games like this. We saw what happened the week before against Fulham. With 10 men, they still managed to find a way. And they did try this penalty route again in this match. They were starting to bundle over and fall. And that was telling me that they were starting to lack ideas.
Yeah.
That was telling me that they were starting to panic. And you don't really see that with City. Usually they're
That's
very
true,
methodical.
you're right.
They pick their way through defences and they find a way. But they're starting to look for those penalties. Obviously, Haaland, no shots on target.
Yeah.
That is just insane, right? Everybody was expecting this number 9 to be the star. It was actually the other striker that was the star. Ivan Toney, the guy that was left out of the England squad, definitely had a message for Southgate in this game. Yeah. But Manchester City, for the last couple of weeks, they haven't been looking their brilliant best. But with City, you just feel like, okay, maybe as the World Cup comes closer, they've got a lot of players going. Maybe they're just starting to just take the handbrake, put your handbrake on and just get through to the end. But they do look like they're trying to be a little bit, we said before, too focused on Haaland, not picking the right pass selection and forcing it a little bit. But another thing I want to mention as well, outside of just Haaland, is the lack of Walker in this team.
Yeah.
And it's really showing with the way that they commit men forward, they're not able to handle the transitions like they were with Walker, because Walker was just ridiculously quick. Stones is nothing like him. Still a great player, but nothing like him. And Cancelo, we know defensively he has his errors. And I think this is potentially why Pep was trying to get Cucurella, was for games like this where they're gonna, look, Cucurella's not been in great form, but a fullback that has got great recovery pace and can help them when they push men forward to be able to deal with those counterattacks, because it can't just be Rodri.
That's a really good point. Let's touch on Brentford quick, because there's something I love about a 3-5-2. Now, it's not the system I would want an Arsenal to play week in, week out, but there are things I really like. For example, firstly, this actually less to do with the system, but it's just crediting Brentford. They constantly had runners, and we saw the early chances they had in the game. Onyeka gets in beyond. It comes from Ivan Toney winning his headers, winning his duels. A big part of the way Brentford were playing so well.
So direct.
They were direct. He was brilliant in the air. He was winning his duels. Yeah. And then Bemo can take advantage of that. But Roerslev and Henry, they were really positive in the game. They were getting forward. Yeah. And when you've got a kind of a midfield three as well that's able to break him beyond, say Onyeka gets him beyond, you've still got a two sitting. Yeah. Like, the system was made for, I almost liken it to rugby. Yeah. You know, when you run forward, but you pass it backwards to the on-running player. There were kind of, from the bits I watched of the game, there were a lot of those kind of movements where they'd go long, there'd be a hold-up, but then there'd be an Onyeka running in beyond, there'd be a Roerslev and Rico.
They were getting close to their strikers. So any knockdowns were just immediately ate up. This guy is so key, Raya. Raya's been incredible recently. Like, he's had man-of-the-match performances. I think he's in the Spain squad as well, but his long-range kicking is incredible because he's so accurate with his passing, and he's able to pick out the two strikers. And like you said, then these guys will tuck in, get close, and then any knockdowns, it was like these four were always in and around the area for any knockdowns, and then they build from there. Because Brentford can play good football. We've seen Brentford bop it about, but they're also a team that will do the long throws. Janssen will take the long throws as well in previous games. So they're mixing it up and they're giving you a bit of both. And that's why, you know, they're such a threat, because they can play the ball around, but they're not afraid to go old-fashioned Premier League, kind of like a Blackburn or a Bolton of the early 2000s, mid-2000s. And you're like, wow, this team, they're a threat physically. Like you said, those two strikers holding the ball up, knockdowns, and then build from there. And then they start to play about. So they just bypass the initial wave of Man City. And I think Raya's just been brilliant recently. He's just such a good goalkeeper.
I remember Jurgen Klopp basically saying they got a number 10 in goal when they drew 3-3 with him. And it was Raya's again. His ability to go direct so accurately. And this is no slight on Brentford, by the way. It's long ball has crept into the game the last 3-4 years via Pep and Klopp a lot more than people think. Pep uses it more as a switch of play. Klopp uses it as a way to get in his front three and behind very quickly, because he's got the distribution from the likes of Trent, Thiago, all that. But when you do it effectively and efficiently and accurately, it's such a weapon, because a team like City will want to press. So naturally, they're going to back themselves in those duels with Ivan Toney. They weren't winning them, and Brentford were able to pick them up. And when I actually looked at the average positions, it looked something a bit like this. Like, Yarnout really did drop in quite deep, with, of course, the fullbacks sort of dropping into those positions, and Bemo and Toney helping out. Like, they were incredibly condensed in central areas. And I think a big part of that is because Man City are lacking proper wide players. And this brings me on to my criticism of Man City and what I think they're lacking at the moment. Now, I want to start on Erling Haaland, because we touched on it last week. So let's just take it back very quickly to what we said about Erling Haaland last week. Now, these are touches. This is pre-Brentford. I'm taking you back to last week's analysis. The minutes they've played, so everyone's played over 600, and the touch they've had this season. It was 302. That's now 323. So we had 21 touches, I believe, in the game, Haaland.
Around about that.
Around that, right. I've got the number, I think.
No shots on target is what I gathered, which was shocking. I mean, you know, he did create an opportunity, but like you're saying, with the wingers, they're lacking. Even Jesus, when he's playing on that right-hand side, he was offering width. Sterling playing on the right side, offering width. they're very, I wouldn't say they're predictable now, because Man City do play very good football on their day, but they're very narrow. And like you said, because they cut off that central space, you know that there's no winger that's going to be out there stretching the pitch. Remember when he used to use Leroy Sané as someone who would play right on the touchline?
Yeah.
Even back to Barcelona when he had Henry, he would put him right on the touchline to create that space in the middle. He's got Foden that can do it, and Bernardo Silva's always going to cut inside, but because they're not natural wingers, they're not going to isolate their fullbacks and really take them on and go at them.
I think that's a big thing they're missing, actually, because do you know what? Hold that thought. I want to come back to that, actually, because I think that's crucial. Haaland's having significantly the fewest touches. Okay, he's a striker. You'd sort of expect that. We touched on Haaland's heat map last week. Okay, I imagine from Brentford, it's probably not changed that much, especially because they had 2 goals conceded. So actually, that might be a bit more red. Yeah. But all jokes aside, so we're seeing clearly where he wants to be, anticipating the ball and making his runs. Now, he does make runs that open space for other players. But then I want to go to this. Man City's forwards, touches per game last season. Phil Foden, 50, Bernardo Silva, 69. We saw De Bruyne sometimes as the false 9, Grealish once or twice. But no one less than 40. Jesus even played wide. Sterling with 44. Haaland's had 25 touches per game in the 22-23 season. Now I know he's scoring a lot of goals. And I know everyone's going to be looking at, who cares? Look at the goal tally. He's destroying everyone when it comes to that. And his movement does open up the space for other players, and I get that.
Yeah.
He's offering something different. And I'm not saying this is wrong. I think City are adapting to him, but no one can deny that it's different. This was a Man City team that was so used to controlling games that everyone contributed, and it was so unpredictable. Now you've got a player that might be incredibly difficult to stop, but he is predictable in terms of where he's going to be and largely what you're expecting him to do. Yeah. Now, I want to show the Arsenal goal that opened the scoring against Wolves. Why am I doing this in the Man City section of analysis? Because look where Jesus ends up in this movement, in this goal. Jesus hasn't scored for 9 games. Jesus has it pretty blunt in front of goal. But Arsenal in that first half were struggling against Wolves. We'll touch on that game in a little bit. They're trying to break them down. The 5 at the back, they didn't really know how to play through it. And Jesus and Marseille would just mix it up. This move starts with Martinelli on the left, who wins it, gets it from a throw, comes all the way inside, gives it wide to Jesus, who's noticed that he's vacated that space. And then he just commits players.
Brilliant reverse ball into Vieira.
Lovely.
Yeah.
At this point, he creates havoc. So the point I'm trying to make is at a time in the game where Arsenal was struggling to break down Wolves, Jesus decided to try and do something different.
And it creates havoc, can't track movements. Whereas when Haaland's there, cross.
I think it's a big problem for them, especially when they don't have wide men who are attacking players and committing them in the way Jesus did with that goal. Where else do we see it? Garnacho. Again, we're going to touch on United a bit later, but Garnacho, with the winning goal, he gets it wide, runs at them, 1-2, wins them the game. Yeah. I think City might regret losing both Jesus and Sterling
at the same
in
time.
One window,
You could say maybe Alvarez could be one of those guys, but he hasn't got the experience and he is more of a striker as well. It's an interesting point because for me, with what you're saying there, it's crazy because Jesus is not getting the goals, but he's disturbing the defences. He's getting nothing but praise from Mikel Arteta. He's causing problems and he's making you unpredictable because you don't know who's going to pick up what pocket, what central space. Now, it could flip the other way and sometimes you don't have a vocal point and then there's nobody in the box, but Arsenal are getting numbers into the box, which is exactly what City used to do. So it's a tough one. I think City do need to have another option. When they're chasing the game, they can't just become predictable with the cross, constantly crossing, looking for Haaland. It has been working, but when you've got a team like Brentford, you've got these physical teams with these centre-backs that can deal with that. We saw it with Liverpool at Anfield as well. Gomez and Van Dijk dealt with him. You've got to have an alternative. You've got to go back to, I guess, disturbing defences in that way, like you said. Yeah,
very, very true. But I will stress this because I can enjoy it, as I said, for 6 weeks. But City, I have no doubt, will get going. They actually don't start seasons that brilliantly. So the fact they've got 10-2-2 as their record, they'll only build on that. They'll only get better. I think they might strengthen in January. And I rate Haaland massively. This isn't a Haaland is bad, Man City have got it wrong. This is a Haaland is incredibly different. City are going to have to come up with another way and adapt to his strengths more.
Just in case it isn't working.
Exactly. So I'm very interested to see what they do. Now, I'm sorry, it's time to talk about your team.
Oh dear. This is...
I mean, again, here you go. Just take it away. Do you want the pen as well? Just tell me, what is this? Oh, it's come. Oh, it's disconnected. Let's get that back in.
Graham
Potter's.
Do you know what? That's almost a sign.
Yeah,
it's
Graham
almost
Potter's
a
gone,
sign
no,
of
you don't even want to.
we can see it, but we'd rather not.
Yeah.
So there it goes. Black screen. What was he trying to do? I mean, I've spoken about this 4 so many times. Right, midfield 4, outnumber opposition. You would expect with that midfield 4 again. We spoke about it against Brighton when Chelsea played. First of all, Chelsea had in this position Ruben Loftus-Cheek. There was an injury. Azpilicueta has to move out there. Thiago Silva.
That's why I kind of just.
So yeah, but initially, Graham Potter had 6 midfielders on that football pitch to start the game. 6 central midfielders because Lewis Hall's not a wing back.
Oh, is that right?
He's a central midfielder. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, as you know, is a central midfielder. Mm-hmm. Then you've got those 4 as well. That's 6 central midfielders to start the game and 1 out-and-out attacker. So initially when I saw this team, chance creation. What are we going to do for chance creation? Again, Chelsea don't have anybody who's a dribbler. Loftus-Cheek, I think he was sitting on 0.9 dribbles per match. That's not great. That was Chelsea's highest. And cover. But no attacking dribblers, no Martinellis, no Sakas. Nobody's going to take their man on. Wingers, we just spoke about with Manchester City. Nobody's going to take their man on and cause problems in that way. Gallagher and Mason Mount are not dribblers. I wouldn't even really call them playmakers. They can create, I think Mason can create chances from deep at times. But in this game, him and Gallagher, they didn't really know what they were doing. Chelsea, you would think at a bare minimum, are going to dominate midfield and they're going to counter-press really well. The only time Chelsea counter-pressed was one moment really that I saw in the first half with Gallagher. He had a shot. And that's when I started cheering because that was all I saw. It was a horrendous display. The whole team, from back to front, Chelsea were that poor. Yeah. They looked like a bottom 5 Premier League team. Yeah. Newcastle were not at their best. Newcastle just had a special moment.
It wasn't a very good game.
It wasn't a very good game.
I have to say.
It was it was like rugby, but then it was like croquet. It was physical, but it was boring. It was horrendous to watch, James. Honestly, it was like watching, I mean, Newcastle can get their slack because they're in great form. Yeah. They have injuries. There's Chris Wood playing up. There's no Callum Wilson. St. Maximum is obviously not there. So again, the midfield long stuff.
There's a lot of players.
There's players missing.
Isaac's missing. Wilson.
But one thing I knew before the game is Willock. He's back getting amongst the goals again. And everybody focuses on Ramirez. And what happens? Third man run. Almiron sneaks in. Mm-hmm. This was the danger man. He's in serious form. He gets that opportunity to cut inside. They dealt with him most of the day. He cuts inside and Willock gets the goal. But Potter is playing Chelsea players out of position a lot recently. Yeah. And the plan is not making sense. Are Chelsea trying to dominate possession? Are Chelsea trying to counter-attack? Are Chelsea trying to press from the front? Newcastle, their game plan was very clear. They were pressing from the front. They were relentless at times, pressing from the front. Chelsea's press, very disjointed, very disorganized, disheartening, disarray, just dysfunctional. I could just keep going. I could keep dissing them all day long, James. It was horrendous. And the substitutions, disgusting. Yeah. Disappointing.
Dishonest.
Oh. Disillusioned.
Yeah.
You want any more?
Disturbing.
We're great.
Yeah.
But honestly, the substitutions weren't any better anyway.
Despairing doesn't quite work.
Now you're just making it worse.
Is despairing a word?
Despairing, I don't know. No. You know, disheartening, we've said that already. The substitutions were really poor as well.
Yeah.
Amari Hutchinson's on the bench. I mean, first of all, why didn't he have Pulisic? Again, I know he wasn't great in midweek against Man City in terms of his finishing, but he was creating chances. He was dribbling past players. He was causing problems. Chelsea against Man City in midweek, they had really good counter-attacks, really good transitions. This team, you know, not so much. And then on the substitutions, he had Amari Hutchinson there. Lewis Hall was probably the most promising player, but we give him slack because he's 18, he's young, he's making his Premier League debut. Amari Hutchinson's on the bench, he doesn't bring him on. Again, Broja, no service. I feel sorry for him, he's only 21. Mm-hmm. Yes, he's rough around the edges, but you can see the hold-up plays there. I like the player. The hold-up plays there. But when you've got Gallagher and Mason Mount, this is like having a cheese pizza and then your topping is cheese. Like, there is just... Honestly, James, it's just the same thing. It's literally the same thing. Like, I don't like margaritas, James.
That's one of the best analogies because I know exactly
they're the same player, James. And
I know exactly
what's so frustrating about watching them is that they just run. They just run. And they just run around and they just run around. But you see when you watch Arsenal, and luckily for me, the Arsenal game was directly after this. So I actually got to watch some good football. You see one player out here, midfield free. It makes sense. You've got players, like when you do build-up play, you can see that this is the holding midfielder, this is the 8, This is the playmaker. This is the winger. And everybody's just playing in their natural positions, connecting dots, stretching defenses, playing in between the lines. Chelsea, they're just running around aimlessly. Nobody knows what they're doing. There's no plan. You've got Gallagher in wide areas. He can't dribble. You've got Mason Mount in wide areas. He's not a winger. And you're expecting chance creation. You're expecting goals. You're not going to get them. Yeah. And then, like I said, at some point, Chelsea are going to concede, and they did. But I can't blame the defence. I can't blame anybody but the manager for the team selection and how negative it was with 6 midfielders and only 1 striker and no other creative outlet. And then, like I said, just in the midfield, Kovacic, I don't know if he's playing with an injury, but he was poor. He's been poor for weeks. He's not playing simple passes. Jorginho's probably been Chelsea's best midfielder recently, and he's not, I wouldn't say he's been a star. He's just been, maybe average. Yeah. So Chelsea in a lot of problems, but maybe it's not him. Maybe he doesn't trust the bench. He doesn't trust the other players. Maybe the environment is not quite right. Maybe there's unsettled players. I don't know. But Chelsea have been appalling to watch for quite some time.
No, you are right. Arsenal are sick. But
Botman, I have to say, what a player.
Well. He looks really good.
Yeah.
Couple things on the Chelsea's front first.
Yeah.
I see a few Chelsea fans online. I know the online fan base doesn't represent everything, but questions, what's Potter trying to do, blah, blah. The one thing I'd say is, this is one thing we did know about Potter. He changes every game. He adapts for the opposition. He builds bespoke plans for those games. Yeah. So I wouldn't be overly alarmed if I were a Chelsea fan about, the differences. You cannot agree with the 11, but the fact that he doesn't have a solid plan, especially when he's only a couple months into it, he hasn't had a transfer window. I mean, none of that surprises me, to be honest. Yeah. On Newcastle, their press was immense. Their defence is superb. Yep. The midfield have immense energy. He is so class, Bruno Guimaraes. But what I love about the goal they scored is Almiron is all the way on the touchline when the ball comes wide, and then it goes into, I believe it's Joe Linton in midfield, who then flicks it on to Almiron. I can't quite remember. Yeah. But then Almiron's running before Joe Linton's even... Is this Joe Linton? Sorry if I got it wrong. But whoever puts him behind to him, Almiron's made the run before he's even got the ball. Because that's what a team in form that are understanding each other are doing. So it was brilliant. And Willock, listen, at Arsenal, we always knew there was a goal scorer and a really good player in there in terms of his ability to time his runs, finish. The talent was there, the energy as well. He's a very modern midfielder, actually, but he just didn't ever quite find the form. And I also think he was developing at a time where things went awfully for Emery. Arteta was trying to develop something that we know took a long time and had a lot of bumps in the road. Maybe today Willock would do quite well in that Arsenal midfield, but he's doing brilliant in Newcastle. I'm very happy for him.
No, he's doing very well. I mean, Newcastle are the definition of a team. Everybody understands their job. Everybody understands their role. I've seen Newcastle play 10 times better than this season. This was probably a very average performance for them. But
I agree,
they stuck in there. It was a bit of a back and forth game. It wasn't really that good. But Newcastle in the end, just because they understand each other's movement, they all understand each other's jobs, and then they end up getting the goal, and it was deserved. We know, and Newcastle actually did bookies' favourite going into this game. But Chelsea, I mean, have you ever seen a Chelsea team with this much lack of creativity? I mean, it was easy for Newcastle. Newcastle have the joint best, I think they have the best defensive record. Yeah. It was easy for them.
They have the joint with Arsenal. Someone tweeted when that Chelsea 11 came out, this is the kind of 11 we'll look back on in 2-3 years' time when the process has developed, and we'll look back and we'll say, look how far we've come.
Yeah, there's nobody left, honestly. Only one shot on target, I think, in the first half. Botman, Sarr, Trippier, Burn, easy day. Not a single problem for them.
Fair enough. All right, let's move it on from there. I'm going to have to nick that back from you. Thank you so much.
Hopefully the lights don't go out on that performance.
We are... We're working on some cool stuff, guys. We'll be able to do a lot more with the tactical power. We'll be able to do a lot more actual analysis.
After the World Cup?
We'll see. Chat to the production.
I don't want to put any pressure on you.
But we have really enjoyed this. We're actually really keen to bring the show to you guys before the World Cup. This is our 6th maybe show, I think. Give everyone a bit of a feel for what it's going to be like. We really hope you guys are enjoying it. That concludes sort of our main analysis, but we are going to go into some other stuff very quickly just to touch on it. Wolves and Arsenal. Again, I'll be talking about this on Tactical Insight on AFTV. But generally, I want to give Wolves a little bit of credit. I thought first half they defended well. I mean, this was one of those Is there a back five? Is there a back three? It was a five. There was, Bueno, I thought had a really good game actually. Saka, poor. But they had this very interesting, would you call it a pentagon shape? That's a pentagon, you could, right? Where Adama and Guedes almost, if we move everyone into position, I felt they were kind of onto what Zinchenko and White want to do in terms of getting on the ball, and were quite good at sort of blocking that out. And then you had Neves, Moutinho and Traore stopping the other sides into Odegaard and Vieira. Xhaka came off ill very early on. They tried the lasagna trick, fair play. But, Arsenal were able to kind of, as we mentioned with the goal, Jesus comes wide, Martinelli, gets more central, mix it up, and you need players like Jesus who are able to come inside and cause problems, and we see that with the goal that we have shown once already, but we will show it again, because you need players that are going to cause different issues. And fair play to Odegaard getting in the box. Someone commented on a YouTube video of mine saying that's 12 goals from midfield in our 14 games from our midfielders. We know Odegaard, I think that might have been his 5th and 6th of the season, maybe. Xhaka's got 3 or 4. Saka, Martinelli chipping in. Partey's got 2.
It's shared around.
Absolutely. Gabriel wins it for us at the bridge. He's got 2 goals. Saliba's got 2 goals. And that's what Arsenal are doing really, really well. They're able to have that unpredictability about them because you don't really know who's stepping up on the day. Saka, really poor. He was poor. I thought he started really well against Forest before he came off injured and good at the bridge. He was poor in this game. But Martinelli stepped up second half, and Jesus... Listen, the World Cup wasn't on his mind, Jesus. He looked like he knew he was in the squad, but he looked like he was playing for a place in the starting 11. Because we know that Richarlison's liked as well by Tite. And Arsenal deserve a lot of credit. It was a very mature professional performance.
One thing I will say, very impressed with Gabriel's performance.
Really
impressed.
Thank you for highlighting
Gabriel that. He was the leader in the defence. Saliba, had a moment or two. Gabriel
wasn't good,
saved him, saved him at times, got a wonderful deflection on a shot. And I've been critical of Gabriel at the start of the season. He made some errors, some head loss. We've seen him be sent off before, dive in, be a bit rash, but he's coming along. And I'm starting to see now why Arsenal fans are saying, do you know what? No, this guy is really good. And he is one of our leading men, because when he came over from Ligue 1, he was really highly regarded, one of the young Brazilian defenders coming through. People spoke about him very, very well. And then he came over here and he had his time and he needed to acclimatise. And, I was even starting to think, for Arsenal's sake, do they need to bring in another centre-back just to give him a kick and say, listen, we will bench you if you're going to keep making these costly errors. But in this game, I thought he was brilliant. I don't know whether you thought he was man of the match or not. But
probably him, Odegaard, Jesus. But probably Gabriel, because the amount of defensive work he had to do to deny the counter. Wolves didn't actually have that many opportunities. They had a few.
He's always a problem, isn't he?
Adama Traore didn't even play well, yet he was a problem. But I felt Gabriel dealt with it all really well. Arsenal's start to the season of 12 wins, 1 draw and 1 defeat is the 5th best in Premier League history. So, you've got...
10 out of the last 13 usually win the title, James, after Christmas.
I can't wait till we blow it. No, look, long way to go. This isn't like previous years where you could start that well and people are saying, right, that's it, you've won it now. City are they're a different animal in terms of the numbers they put up to win their titles. But
Ramsdale as well.
I love this guy.
Does he deserve to start for England? I personally do.
For me,
I know
100%,
I was going back and forth with Henry Winter on Twitter about this because he was saying, Pickford's got to play in. Yeah, because I was like, I need to go
and read that interaction.
Well, he told me there's no conversation Pickford's going to start. But I think if you're going to play out from the back, I said it on many roundtables on DR. If you're going to play out from the back, Pickford is not on the same level as Ramsdale.
I agree.
So if you're England, you need to decide your style of play because that guy is having some serious form this season. He's making big saves. He's playing out from the back. He's against Chelsea, just played the ball straight in between the midfield and it was into the second phase and one pass later there was a shot. So he needs some recognition.
Listen, I'm with you. And also, there were a couple moments towards the end of last season, beginning of this season, where people go, "Oh, does he look a bit?" But he's ironed those out and he's looked absolutely superb recently. So I'm with you. He starts for me for England. Let's talk about Tottenham.
Yes.
They won it 4-3. What a game there. I want to give some credit to Bentancur. His 2 goals ultimately make the difference. This is his rankings in the 14 out of 15 league appearances he's made this season for Tottenham. He is ranking 3rd for touches, 2nd for goals. We know he's got a couple in the Champions League as well. 3rd for assists.
Chipping in, aren't they? Højbjerg as well.
Yeah, that's very true. 3rd in terms of passes, 1st for tackles, by a long way. May I say. And third for interceptions as well. So credit to him. He's been a big part of Spurs midfield, and it's not even just now. When he came in January, him and Kulusevski made a big difference. Interestingly enough, Kulusevski's got 5 assists, which is the most for Tottenham this season. The most of any Tottenham player. And he's been injured for most of it. But big player, Bentancur.
Do you know what? Do you know what? I don't want to make this comparison because I don't think he's as good as him. But it's the same level of kind of upgrade that this midfield needed when he signed in January. Do you remember when Dembele at Tottenham? He was so press resistant, so physical, could handle the prem. He's obviously taken
contributes to all areas of the pitch.
Contributes to all areas. Kind of gets about, like I said, off the ball. He's winning his tackles and interceptions on the ball. Not the best passer in the world, but is able to carry the ball. Is able to chip in with some goals, and he's been brilliant ever since they've signed him. And for me, I think. I wouldn't say that now that Basuma's even starting to step up a little bit. I wouldn't even say that Højbjerg's been, they've all been good. It's just that they're all very similar. And that's the problem, is that they don't have anybody different when the game isn't going the way they need it to go. But he's contributed massively. And I think him and Kulusevski, I mean, they've signed him from the same club. Has Juventus got anybody else for Tottenham? Because the upgrades are insane.
Well, they've fallen into the Europa League, haven't they? So maybe. I'm giving credit to Bentancur. When they signed him in January, and a lot of people saying, "Oh, he's crap," I was like, I don't know, because he's come. There was a time at which he was very highly rated, and that doesn't go away over just a couple of years. And he's obviously rediscovering his best form. Well, I'm going to be critical of Tottenham, okay? And this is the bitter Arsenal fan coming out, even though yes,
they conceded 3 goals.
I know, and we have a healthy gap on them. Don't get me wrong, but. They can't. What's that? Jesse Pinkman meme. They can't keep getting away with it.
They can't.
But debate whether it's a foul on the keeper. It looks like it might, but I haven't really watched it properly. Deflected goal for the second. Deflected for the third. Like
they don't deserve, but they have that dog in them.
And I've got to give them credit, right? They fight
constantly fight for
every
everything.
Single game.
Yeah.
It becomes battering ram stuff. It becomes just. Run into them, charge, get into the box, cause havoc. Now that is a skill because I've seen even Arsenal, many teams. Listen, City could have used a bit of battering ram stuff against Brentford. Don't get me wrong.
It's like the Black Panther. The defense is not so stable and not so strong. Don't want to spoil it, but they always come back.
Have you seen it?
The comments are going to be fuming.
Yes. They good film though. Credit to them. They clearly fight for everything under Conte, and I believe that's driven by Conte. But at the same time, they're not getting by on quality. Maybe individual quality from players,
like Kane and
but not
as a team.
No.
But
they've got a lot of time to address that now because they've kept 4th, well in touch with City in terms of points with City, ahead of Man United, who've had a resurgence. And they're in that discussion. So
if they keep doing this, then they'll make top 4. Whether they deserve to be where they are is another question. I certainly think that it's a little bit of a false position, similar to Oli under at Manchester United when they finished 2nd. But at the end of the day, the table also doesn't lie, so someone's lying.
No, very true. Let's talk about West Ham's defeat to Leicester at home. They have had a really poor start to the season, and this is the comparison after 15 league games, of course, because some people play 15. Arsenal only the 14. Chelsea only 14, or?
I have no idea. I've disconnected now. I'm done.
Fair enough. They started last season brilliantly. 8 wins, 3 draws, 4 defeats, a +9 goal difference. This season, 4 wins, 2 draws, 9 defeats. Look to their goal difference and the goals scored and conceded. So you got your goals scored, conceded there. They conceded more goals by this point last season. But they're scoring. They just added Lucas Paqueta and Scamacca.
What's going on?
So what's going on?
I think maybe you could liken this to City, but they're adapting, aren't they, to playing with a different type of forward. I mean, Scamacca, for me, I think he's a very good player. I could see why PSG were interested. I could see why maybe even some of the top 6 teams could have gone in from. You say Manchester United could do it with a striker. Chelsea, really, for me, could do it with a striker. He's a very good technical player, can do a little bit of everything, run the channels, win the headers, drop deep, running behind. He's a very good, complete forward from a fundamental standpoint. But I think for West Ham, they had a lot of shots in this game, but when I checked the statistics, 0 big chances missed. Like, they had no big chances. But Danny Ward made a lot of saves as well. It was a bit of a pinball affair. Ben Rama, for me, has probably been their best attacker this season. Again, he's the most dangerous player.
I love players like
Sometimes Moyes doesn't always fancy him. He's a little bit in and out of the team. Sometimes he's hooking him off when he's playing the best. So I don't really know what the beef is. I remember when he was at Brentford in the Championship, he was brilliant. You know, he was wreaking absolute havoc, causing problems, and he's doing that for West Ham. So they are a bit unlucky in a sense. I do think they deserve something out of the game based on how many attacks they had and how many chances, but they weren't clinical. Danny Ward has had a bit of a resurgence because he was obviously really poor at the start of the season. Leicester, I know you've got a graphic coming up. Their climb from the depths. I thought Rodgers was due to be sacked, that there was no way back for them, that they'd lost motivation, they'd lost any, real determination to get themselves back. Where was the motivation to climb back to mid-table after what they've achieved? But Maddison, stepped up. I don't think his injuries, a problem. It seems like it's fine. What a finish, by the way. Left foot, roof of the net, power, brilliant. Harvey Barnes on the counter.
He's ruthless.
Wonderful finish, ruthless. He can shoot with both feet.
I love him.
Really, really underrated players, and they were always too good from a player standpoint to be in the position they were. It was so shocking. Them and Aston Villa, when you look at their teams, it should never be down there. And now we're starting to see the results come in, and it's nice to see for Rodgers, because I do think that people are starting to get on his back. Yes, he might have lost the team a little bit, maybe the mental fatigue of missing out on Champions League football over the years, etc. But we have to remember he's won an FA Cup. And he is a very good manager. And for me,
he's
I'm
a brilliant
happy
manager. People are being way too critical. And this is, again, like I said with the City analysis earlier, I'm going to give us credit because here we were maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks ago saying Leicester's underlying numbers aren't that bad. That, in terms of where they're ranking the league for touches in the opposition area, touches in the attacking third, shots, possession, all those things. They were actually better, and they lost 6-2 at Tottenham, having been the better team. So I'm not overly surprised by this turnaround. I'm really happy that it's come in time where I think one more bad result, and it might have just looked untenable. But he's got through it, and something else that stands out: clean sheet, clean sheet, clean sheet, clean sheet, clean sheet. That's a big part of it. If you could just tighten up at the back. Jamie Vardy now, obviously got a few goals, I think, at Wolves, and he's started to come back into it. That is important. Experience, clean sheets, go back to basics, they'll build on it, and I think Leicester will end up
I do think Maddison
season.
is he is the talisman. When you look at his statistics this season, I think only De Bruyne has been above him. He's been, statistically better than any English player, hence why he was kind of forced and dragged into the England squad, because we know Southgate wasn't too keen before. But his drive and willingness to break into that England World Cup team has kind of galvanised the rest of this Leicester team, and he said, listen, I'm making that World Cup squad. I'm dragging you all to my level because I'm not playing about. And eventually they've all managed to get back involved. Tielemans has started to look a lot. I know he missed a penalty. He's started to look a bit better recently. He's been putting in some great goals. So he slowly started to get this team going in the right direction. So you have to credit the mentality of Maddison, because he's had a lot of setbacks. He's had injuries. He's missed out on, squads, Euros, etc. when he's been one of England's, in this country, one of the best midfielders, one of the best creative midfielders. And now he's getting his reward. And I think Leicester's form is a lot down to him as well.
Yeah, no, you're right. And what a way for them to end it, going into the World Cup. What's that? 4 wins, 1 draw, and 1 defeat going to the World Cup. That leaves them in a much healthier position. All right, we're going to round off the show on just some thoughts on Darwin Núñez getting 2 goals, good goals as well. Some lovely link-up play from him. And Garnacho as well, what a talent he looks. And probably guys wondering why we're not doing more analysis on those games. Look, they're games I expected those teams to win. Man United actually weren't particularly good against Fulham at all. And Liverpool, got the job done early in the first
Southampton
half.
team that just switched managers, isn't it?
Right. So there's not a lot to really say tactically from that perspective. But Núñez and Garnacho stand out.
I think that was the best game I've seen from Núñez. Honestly, he was dropping deep. I've criticised him for not really looking like a footballer at times.
I've said I don't rate him.
Yeah, so he gets his goals. He's in the box. He's getting his goals, and his goals to minutes ratio is ridiculous right now. But at times, when they were relying on him to be the focal point in the Firmino role, in the Gabriel Jesus role, to link up and knit the attack together, it just wasn't working. Now I'm seeing him in this game, he was brilliant from a link-up standpoint. He was dropping deep, coming off the left as well. I like Firmino back in this team. He played a wonderful pass in between the lines for Robertson, who cut it into to the box. And Firmino's key because he is willing to sacrifice his own game, his own goals.
Scored again, didn't he?
Yeah, well, no, he did get the goal.
Did he get the
he got the first goal.
Yeah.
Nunes got two. But even if he doesn't score, we've seen Firmino with no goals.
Yeah.
You know, people criticizing the lack of goals. Mane and Salah are scoring, but he is willing to sacrifice his game. If Salah needs to come inside, he's willing to pull out wide. If Nunes is in the box, he's willing to drop deep. Firmino is the ultimate sacrificer. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the last couple of years. Especially when he was at his peak. Wonderful player. He was originally, people forget, a number 10.
He was,
Was it Hoffenheim? Was it?
I think so.
Yeah.
And that false 9 was developed by Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah. So wonderful player. But yeah, Nunes was brilliant. Gets his 2 goals, nice finishes. And Liverpool looking like they're coming out of their rut.
Yep, absolutely.
And Garnacho.
Yeah, on Garnacho.
Dribbling.
Yeah.
We're seeing a left winger contribute. No shade at Sancho, do you know what I mean? But he's got to level up because this guy is willing to take people on. We saw him midweek with the pass as well, wonderful assist. And then now he's getting a late goal. And do you know what it is? It's a bit of P&P. Of course, in the Premier League, we want to see technical ability. But in the Premier League, you need to have speed. Yeah. And I've criticised it a lot from my team's point of view as well. Just not having the speed to take players on or the strength. You need to be able to take people on.
Positive attitude to just go.
Yeah, and the bravery.
Yeah.
You need the bravery because if you're going to play out wide, you're expected to lose the ball. But you're also expected to be brave and to take people on. You're the guy that's meant to take a defence and disturb their shape and take a man out of the game and then have an overload or whatever. You're meant to be the person that takes risks. You don't want a DM taking risks on the ball, playing out from the back, but this is the player that's meant to take risks and he's doing that. So he's just a bit of a breath of fresh air. We're seeing a lot of youngsters pop into teams now and just lease of life. They're straight in and just doing business. So very impressive. Then he does the Messi celebration. So obviously his new inspiration is not Ronaldo anymore.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
Holds the shut
Fair
up.
play, yeah.
But Ronaldo did have a lot of shots on target this weekend. Just not on the pitch.
No.
Ten Hag, Ragnick, Rooney.
Ragnick wasn't a coach. Do you know what? We're not going to do all that because they're going to tackle it on DR Sports, on the review show, guys. Yeah. I have so much to say about Cristiano Ronaldo, but
we don't
for another time.
It was a tactical move, though.
For another time.
I mean, look at the timing. Fergie time.
It was pretty calculated. He'll make a good coach.
Listen,
he'll do.
Piers walks off on the
morning show.
He'll be a Mourinho. Ronaldo walks off.
The deflection stuff, he's good at that.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there, guys. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Right,
These shows are getting longer and longer because we are. Listen, we're having a lot of fun with these. I have to say, and I'm enjoying learning about the other teams. I'm enjoying seeing what everyone's doing tactically, and Matisse, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm gonna see if production want to do a couple little World Cup specials every now and again.
I wouldn't mind. That would be good.
I think that'd be fun. We can do them maybe specifically on certain games. I'm sure production really, I'm sure production really appreciate the way I talk to them through the show. They're probably sitting there thinking, why not just discuss it later? Guys, we're going to leave it there. Big thanks to everyone for joining us. Smash a like on the video if you did enjoy. Let us know in the comment section what you made of some of the performances, how the teams are looking, and how it's all left in the Premier League going into the World Cup. We'll leave it there. Big thanks for all the support. As always, we really appreciate it.
Everyone's talking about metaverses, but I'm well happy to be in the OG metaverse, the game that started it all. If you played, send us a tweet to @DR Sports Media. We had this room made specially for the DR Sports fan base. You can get custom-made clothing, items and furniture based on DR Sports colours. To open the shop, click the shopping trolley. There are all sorts of other rooms and games in Habbo. Open up the navigator window on the bottom right-hand side of your toolbar to see. I'm visiting Habbo Tuesday the 15th at 5 p.m. UK time, and I want to see you there. Make sure to follow DR Sports on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, because we're running a weekly competition for you to interview me in Habbo.